Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Changers, the Future of Play, where we explore AI, gaming, and the business of play. I'm Tony Callahan here with my podcast team, Sarah Ramos and Stephanie Ventura. And today we are joined by a very special guest who we're very excited to talk to, Jennifer Poulson. She is a global game publishing and marketing leader, currently focused on franchise strategy at EA Sports. Jennifer brings deep experience across companies like EA, Immutable, Riot Games, and Bandai Namco, with a track record of driving growth across both established and emerging markets. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jennifer. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. So you've had a very diverse and what I think is exciting career across some of these bigger names in gaming, EA, Riot, Bandai Namco, and then Immutable. What initially got you into the gaming industry in the first place?
Sure. I started in gaming more than 2 decades ago. I was on the agency side of the business, working in communications, a global PR agency, and our client was Microsoft Xbox. And I was seconded to the Xbox office and working on that business during the Xbox 360 days. And so that's how I started. I then, continued on in my agency career for another decade plus, and I worked on a wide variety of businesses, but always came back to gaming. And the gaming clients I worked with were always the most wonderful and kind, and they had fun, coming to the office every day, and they loved what they do. And so when I went in-house, I knew that games industry was where I wanted to be because it was full of people who were really passionate about what they do.
I love that. I feel like it's not so common for people to be drawn into the industry because of like the kindness of the people who are in it. So I think that's really special. And I think maybe it was kind of like the right time too. I love
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
And, you've kind of bounced around you've been a little bit in marketing, publishing, partnerships, kind of all together.
Mhm.
What moments from these kind of various roles that you've been in have shaped how you approach your role today?
Sure. The titles are different, but the work is relatively consistent, which is that every game company defines things a little differently in terms of what publishing is. But I think that, consistently I have been on the publishing side of the business, which is everything from, all of the go-to-market and the marketing that includes traditional marketing and comms and community and social, etc., as well as more of like the getting product to market business side of it, where, in a console game environment really used to be about those retail relationships and like, pushing out SKUs and making sure the box product was getting to market. And now, focused on digital and pricing and SKUs and all of that. So, it's really that kind of like holistic getting a game into the hands of players that I've always focused on. And what the part of it that I find the most fun is kind of my craft expertise, which is really around the comms and marketing piece, like making sure that our brand is connecting with players and that we're building a community and driving ongoing engagement.
I love that. That's so great. Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about how the role, the objective is getting the games in their hands, but the way that you do that has changed quite a bit in the past
Mhm.
couple of years. Very
Yes.
interesting. And then, you've worked in different parts of the world, so
Mhm.
both kind of in established markets, in emerging markets. How did that influence your perspective on building these global franchises and making them successful?
Sure. I think the main way that it influenced me is is that, the rest of the world, especially when you're working for US or Western-based companies, that those markets are huge and the opportunity is huge. And oftentimes, when you're North America based, you get really tunnel vision on just this market. And making sure that there's a really strong understanding about the opportunity in in other markets, as well as how to go to market and making sure that you're delivering locally relevant content and meeting players where they are. That's really, I think, what's critical to be able to drive a global business, this kind of strong understanding of local needs.
Like that. Yeah, it's definitely easy to get caught up in our own little worlds. So
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Tony, before you jump to the next question, I kind of got stuck on the last discussion that we were having. So you talked about being in the physical world of like packaging and people getting their hands on a game versus now digital. I'm thinking back to my own experience. I remember back in the day, people would line up at Best Buy, right, to get the newest, latest game. They wanted to have that in their hands, and felt like it was such an experience.
Right.
How have players like transitioned? Was it a smooth transition from that kind of hype and excitement to now just download the game and get started? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, I can't say it was a smooth transition, because as a games business, we had a lot built around that, right? We had whole departments that were really retail people, that were salespeople. We did a lot of physical goods, including, when you talk about the lining up to get your game, a lot of that was driven around the exclusives that we would do for that first day, digital collectibles, and it would come with a figurine and kind of all of that. And some of that still exists, but being able to transition to digital and expand penetration has really been a huge shift for the industry, and one that has driven, incredible growth, because you're able to manage the life cycle of your product so much more effectively. So now when we launch, we're looking at driving pre-orders as much as possible so that we can understand the demand that exists. We're offering exclusives, early access, etc. If you do pre-order and, creating different SKUs that are digital, that offer different benefits for players. And so with that, and with the way that you can manage different moments or sales or timing of a digital product that you can control more easily, has really been, a big boon to the industry in terms of growth. And when you look at the industry and the key things that were the drivers of growth moments, whether it's like platform expansion, like consoles coming on board, and especially mobile coming on board, or it's digital distribution innovation, like being able to move away from physical, or the app stores. Like, those are the moments that have really driven the industry forward. So it wasn't always smooth, but it was certainly a big opportunity that we had to capture, and has grown the global gaming business.
It's great.
Love that. I like that. The road was a little bit bumpy, but we got there.
We got there.
Well, I'm sure players can see a benefit too, right, for the digital game, right? Because you can offer like packages or extra things along with the pre-orders and stuff that's maybe a little bit easier than the physical. So
yeah, and my PlayStation now does not have a disc. To it.
Oh, it doesn't have
it. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I
think ours still has one.
Yeah.
Yeah, our Xbox doesn't have one either. It's just everything's digital.
So funny. I love it. Jennifer, thinking about kind of course, you have the strategic side of the publishing role. When you're looking at, success for a game franchise as a whole, of course, revenue is kind of the obvious one, but and I kind of have a feeling, you touched on it a little bit earlier with the community aspect, but when you're kind of trying to define success for these game franchises, beyond just revenue, what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me certainly is engagement and retention. You're not able to drive revenue unless you have that engagement, people wanting to be in the game all the time and playing and seeing the value in continuing to invest, whether it's a robust forever game and live service game, or it's a console game which has those live service elements. Having and maintaining engagement and a large player base that's coming into your game every day, that's really how I would define success and what's most important.
Like that. Yeah, it seems like the community aspect is just becoming more and more important because, of course, if there's a strong community, that leads to all the other KPIs that are relevant. So I love that. And in your experience, what would you say, and I know this is tough because it's really zoomed out, but what separated the brands that sustained their momentum and then the ones that kind of plateaued in their success?
Yeah, it's interesting because some things are, especially in like a console market, kind of a launch and forget, where it's it's one game and you move on from it, and then games like League of Legends or Valorant that I worked on at Riot are ones that we want to sustain for decades to come. And I'd say that what drives the difference in success in some of those kind of long-term engagement games are really being, like you've said, the community, and being able to drive the affinity and love and passion for the IP as a core part of your players' identity. There are a lot of League of Legends players who that's their main passion, and we are able to surround them with the content that they love. So in the example of League, the game itself is a 5v5 on a map that you're looking at from above, and are kind of going towards each other, and it's not, there's nothing else to it. It's there's a lot of strategy and skill that you can play for thousands of hours, of course, but that's the game. But Riot does an excellent job of fleshing out every single one of those 150 characters and all their backstories and all the lore and how they relate to each other, and tons of art, and making sure that everyone can find the character that they really relate to personally and love and want to invest in. And like shows like Arcane around it, there's lots of music around it, events around it, esports around it. And so being able to surround 360 your fandom with the things that they care about, I think that's what sustains these games long term and makes them beyond just 5v5 on a map.
Yeah, that's great. I feel like even if the concept of the game, I don't want to say it's simple, but maybe it is kind of simple, but it's kind of everything that comes together to make it kind of a little ecosystem of, this is everyone who plays this. Is really sweet. Sorry, Sarah, to interrupt you.
No, you didn't interrupt. I'm just kind of dreaming right now, and I'm thinking about, books that you read and you really get into the character, or video games like you're talking about. And it's easy to get tied into a character and want to learn more, and wait, it's not over yet. I need more. Right. So yeah. I definitely think having a good story around them and building their personality, yeah, and that really makes a difference.
I love that. Well, last question from me. So as you kind of look ahead into the future, what trends are you personally most excited about in kind of the gaming and publishing world, especially in the age of AI, and it continues to evolve very, very quickly?
Yeah, I mean, for AI in particular, it's definitely, this year has been a huge shift. I'm sure you guys are experiencing it very much. But when it comes to game development, or as well as on the marketing side and what's possible, I think looking at coding tools in particular and how things can be sped up are really what's exciting. I think that we don't necessarily see roles being replaced, but our work becoming more efficient, certainly, and being able to do more than we were able to do, and explore different avenues that maybe were not possible within our budgets. So yeah, I mean, that's really exciting to see what will come from AI advancements and how we can implement them into our everyday workflow. And a lot of teams are already doing that. And then in terms of games, I guess some of the exciting developments I see are that, and I think this is not maybe just games, but in entertainment as well. Certainly the big kind of legacy IPs and franchises continue to be strong, and do dominate, Hollywood box office, for example. But we are also seeing an appetite for new stories and unique IPs and brand new characters that people haven't experienced before. And so the biggest games and, or most like awarded games from last year, like a Clair Obscur or, things that are big hits like an Arc Raiders, the fact that there are new IPs coming on board that people are embracing and excited about, I think that's always nice to see that it's not just like a rehash of previous things.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think it's exciting to see where things are going now that everyone is kind of empowered with something that can really like supersize even these little teams in the industry. So it'll be exciting to see what happens.
And Jennifer, to kind of add on to that, do you see, and because you've had some great experience across gaming, do you see companies and maybe your peers a little hesitant to start adopting AI? What's your take on that?
No, I think that there's generally an openness and understanding that it really like enables acceleration of their work. We're all busy people and we can use help. And so having AI to just like help you everything from organize your day to like understand some strategic priorities better to, kind of like deliver documents that might have taken you a long time. Like, one thing right now that we talk about is just how much time it takes to make pretty slides, especially in marketing. We often have to do these like big pretty decks and slides, and to have AI just be able to like do that for us and not spend hours and hours making something look pretty that doesn't actually move the needle, things like that are just helpful. And I think it is what brings adoption forward, because people see the immediate impact on their work day and how much it alleviates some of the pain points they already experience.
That's great. I love to hear how different industries kind of feel about AI, because I feel like there's definitely some that are more gung-ho and then some that are a little bit more hesitant. So it's nice to hear your perspective.
Yeah. And I think it is a difference between using it as a tool that is improving your, workflow and kind of like taking the friction away of things that maybe you already didn't want to do anyway, versus replacing artists, right? Like, we haven't, at EA certainly seen that. We still rely on artists, but I also, have colleagues and friends who are artists that use AI as a tool to just like help them create things faster or get to good with the AI, and then be able to, push their own art and thinking forward. So yeah, I think there's always a lot of debate when a new technology comes on board, and at some point like we settle into how it actually like fits into our lives.
Yeah, you're right. So many different use cases, so it's kind of hard to say across the board, but I like your perspective for sure. All right, so I'll go ahead and jump into those rapid fire questions. They're designed to be kind of quick and fun, but feel free to elaborate if you have more to say. So first question for me, favorite game of all time or favorite gaming memory?
Sure. My favorite game of all time is Ninja Gaiden 2.
What? Yes. I played that as a kid. Very good one.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, and then one leadership habit that has made the biggest difference in your career?
I would say it is a focus on people and remembering that the people are the ones who are delivering the work, and all of our efforts are made up of lots of different people on our team. And so if you focus on the people, their motivations, and their goals, and what will help them grow and be happy and passionate in their day-to-day, then you can get to great outcomes. And so I always really try to focus on the people.
Perfect. Biggest trend in gaming or AI that excites you?
Yes. So I think I'll go back to that piece about new and unique IPs that are coming up, but also, just about being able to surround people with fandom, and give them lots of different touch points. So like right now I work on sports games that people are really very, very passionate about. And so like they have their own sport fandom, and then they can play the game, and then we can surface them with other content and the athletes and the people that they love. Like being able to feed into people's fandom, I think, is the main trend that all kind of like entertainment properties will start to go towards, because we all have such little time, and being able to capture the audience's attention is about like enveloping them in an ecosystem of the thing that they're passionate about.
I love that. That's really fun. What's one skill gaming professionals will need much more of in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I'd say it's interpersonal skills, right? Because like what we talked about is that, AI can really help with your workflows, and start to like automate some tasks, etc. So rather than those kind of hard technical skills, it's about being able to navigate organizations, like those kind of requirements never go away. Being able to communicate well and work with others, and manage, a large and complex organization. I think those are the skills that will never go away and will continue to increase.
Yeah, very human skills.
Yes.
Very necessary. All right. If you weren't working in gaming, what would you be doing?
I think I hope what I'd love to do, it's still on the table, I'd still love to do it, is just be at like work at a doggy daycare, own a doggy daycare, and spend time with animals. We at EA we have a open dog policy. People bring in their dogs all the time, and so I'm always playing with dogs. I'm always threatening to be promoted into full-time EA doggy daycare runner and just play with everyone's dogs.
Perfect job.
I
thought you were going to say something, Tony.
Of course. Like, I want that one too.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. Thanks for those. And I love the Ninja Gaiden reference. I don't think I've heard anybody talk about Ninja Gaiden. That was one of my favorite games back in the original Nintendo days. And so I can still see the little ninja with his sword, the very like robotic jump up.
Yeah, I worked on, so the newer ones that were on Xbox 360 as well, like during that period with Team Ninja. And it was such a great project to work on. And then Itagaki-san, who was the creator of Ninja Gaiden and head of Team Ninja, recently passed away. And so that was really, really sad to see an icon of the industry pass, but reminded me how much I really loved that game. Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Love that. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I think our viewers are going to love this one. I think you have a unique perspective on kind of franchise strategy, on global publishing. You've worked all over the world and really just building these successful game brands up. And I think it's going to be a great episode. So thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. And just really quick for our audience, if you enjoyed this episode, you can find Game Changers, The Future of Play on Spotify, YouTube, and our website, secutaqs.ai. And we'll include all of that in the caption. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.